let's have a quick recap what we did yesterday so that we can get started. So yesterday we saw like how a Snowflake UI looks like what are the components of Snowflake UI, and then we saw different hierarchy of Snowflake, like how it usually organized. We saw like under organization there are accounts, under accounts all our objects come into the picture. So we saw that we have this brief idea, and then we saw something called as different types of role that are usually by default given by Snowflake. So again, we saw these things and we try to understand this, and then we went to something called as time travel. So again, anyone define what is time travel? Difference between time travel and retention period? Can anyone explain difference between retention time and time travel? No one? One want to try?
You can go.
Yep.
So time travel is like, example, if I take a record, so if I want to check that, like when the record got updated or whatever, so that history of the transaction is called time travel.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas redemption is nothing but usually in our banking thing, so we'll have a time period of till how long a document or a record should be present, and we need to delete the document or the record after some time frame. Example, like after 2 years, that record should be get deleted. So in that case, that's where the redemption comes into picture.
Okay, thank you. So did you attend yesterday's class, sir?
No.
Okay, no worries. Okay.
I missed it, sorry.
No worries, no worries. I just asked. No worries.
Yeah,
You
no
are correct. No, there's no wrong in that answer, but just I wanted to ask. Okay, no worries.
sure.
Okay, fine. Retention period is nothing but it is a period or a time duration for which your Snowflake keep your historical data. Okay, that is like your delete, modified, whatever data you need to keep. That data is being kept by the Snowflake. Okay, that doesn't mean. I also explained that that doesn't mean that your whatever the data in your main table that is being deleted or whatever whenever you say beyond that retention period it is removed. That's not a thing. It's only the whatever whenever you try to keep any retention period on top of any objects, what Snowflake will do is do the physical copy or do all this historical copy into the storage system and try to maintain this historical data. Okay. Now, how long that this particular Snowflake need to keep this historical information inside the storage, that is been defined by your retention period. Whereas in time travel is nothing but within this retention period, if you want to go back and see your historical data, so time travel will allow the feature that you can access or restore the data from the past within this retention period. Okay, that can you can recover your drop table, your previous version of data, accidental modification or deletion rows. These all things can be achieved using your time travel. This is what we have seen yesterday, and then we saw something called as for which all things the time travel can be applied. We saw that only for the tables we can apply our time travel, where for database and schemas we cannot apply our time travel. We can only apply the retention period. Now, why we cannot apply the time travel for database and schema? Can anyone explain? I explained yesterday.
Database schema applies to all table, but if we go for a single table time travel, like we will get the data for that period.
Okay. Then why are we applying the retention period on top of this object? Who attended yesterday's class? Anyone from yesterday's class? Don't be shy, guys, because see, why I'm asking is if you communicate here, then it will be helpful for you to answer in the interview. That's it. It's a quick recap. Even you will have a recap and we can have a communication, two-way communication. That's it. Okay. Can you answer why we are applying retention period on top of database and schema if we cannot do any time travel on top of that? Bharat?
No, usually we won't delete the database or schema, right? So
Okay. Okay. Bharat? Bharat Kumar, you attended
first,
yesterday's class, right? Give me a minute, sir. I'll explain that. Okay.
Uh, Sagar,
Did you attend yesterday class?
yesterday I didn't attend.
Okay. No worries. Manoj Krishna?
Yes. Actually, if we mistakenly deleted like dropper, like we can retain the data. So I think
Okay. No worries. Pramod?
By mistake, if we drop the no, things, right, we can undrop it.
Okay. So what happens is even though time travel is not applied on top of your databases and schemas, but you can do what you can by mistakenly if you drop that particular database, by mistakenly you drop that particular schema. So what you can do within this retention period which you have defined, you can go and use something called as undrop, and you can bring that all the information that is present in your database or schema back. Okay, only during this retention period will be able to do that. That's the reason we'll apply something called as a retention period on top of database schema. Whereas in tables, you can do all these things. You can bring a drop, undrop you can do time travel also you can do, and you can apply your retention period also. This is what we have seen, and this is given by the Snowflake itself. Like you can apply, undrop is also considered a form of time travel. Okay, we saw this, and then we saw a difference between the undrop and time travel, where we are bringing the whole table back or whole object back, then that is called as undropping. Whereas you're only reverting back to a certain duration or only checking the modified data or restoring the previous version of data, then that is called as the time travel. Okay, now this is what we have seen something. Okay, now what is the difference between time travel and failsafe now? Difference between time travel and failsafe.
uh, in time travel, we retrieve the data, but in
Hmm.
failsafe, it is carried out by Snowflake team only. We have
Okay,
to request them.
okay. Then
First,
yeah, how it works? Can you explain?
while creating the tables, we give retention time in
Hmm.
days.
Hmm.
Failsafe is by default it is 7 days
Okay,
in
okay,
permanent tables.
okay, sure. Anyone want to give a try? That's the correct answer.
So, like
Okay.
if 90 days has passed, then
Hmm.
if you want to retrieve something back, you have like 7 days to reach out to Snowflake team to retrieve the
Okay.
information.
So this is what we have seen yesterday, where we are doing to do what? So suppose let's take our time travel, for example, is 10 days. Okay. Now you have created your table and you have applied time travel of 10 days of retention period on top of that. Now you're doing some historical data. Now you have dropped the table also. Okay. On the 10th day, you have dropped, but you can still recover it by time travel. But after 10 days, what happens? It enters in the form of what? It will go into the something called a fail safe, where you cannot bring that back, okay, within that duration. Now, if you want to bring that back, then you have to reach out to something called the Snowflake team, and then you bring that back from the whatever the database you want, you can bring that back. On the 18th day, okay, since you have defined only 10 days of retention period, and on the 17th day, till it will be there on the 18th day, what Snowflake will do, that they will permanently delete that particular record from the storage. Now, whatever the features that is being given by the Snowflake, like its time travel and fail safe, they are going to store that behind. They are making use of storage. Hence, you cannot blindly go and apply 90 days for everything. If you are applying 90 days, since you need to give for time travelers, whatever the retention period you are keeping for that of retention period, you have to pay the storage, and even additional 7 days you have to pay the storage. So unnecessarily, we will be not going and applying this retention period features to each and every table. Only the business critical table will be having certain number of days. Now that is being defined only by whom? That is a business architect will define along with your client or business. They will have a deep discussion, and then they will come with a conclusion, and then they, based on the requirement, they define this retention period on top of your object. This is what we saw yesterday. Okay, now let me open back. Yesterday, and also we entered into our database and we created our first database, that was MyDB, and we created our first schema, that is my schema. Okay, and then we saw something. If you want to see how much retention period is there on top of this particular record, then what we saw, there is something called a show parameters days, retention in days. When we see that, so what it shows, whatever the retention period that is there for current is, it will be showing, and the default value is nothing but 1 for each and all the objects, since this is the default value that which retention period is maintained. Now there are different of time tables for which the time travel will be different, or retention period will be different. We'll be seeing that, but for now we'll understand how it works. Okay, now after that also we saw, if you alter anything with respect to retention period on top of our main object, that is database, how the hierarchy will work. Now I have created my first time, I have created my database. Okay, now created my database for the first time, and on top of that I have applied my retention period, say like 5 days. Whatever the objects you are going to create under this, can whatever like under schema or under schema, any object like tables, whatever the objects you are going to do, so it is going to have the same 5 days by default as a retention period. Now you don't want to have a retention period for all your schemas and tables as 5 days. Now we can go and alter something called as alter schema, my schema, and then set the retention period for that particularly. Now, when we change certain explicitly, then what happens is that is being taken as a default or as a value for that particular object, even though you change your highest hierarchy, that is database. Again, if you're going and changing, now for example, you have changed your schema to say 2 days. Now you have changed your tables to say 7 days. Now, if you're going say 7 days, now if you're going and changing your retention period of your database as 3 days, now what will happen? Can anyone explain what will be the retention period of schema?
All will be 3 days only.
Oh, it is 2 days. Okay, not 3 days. Okay. What is the retention period of tables? What will be the retention period of tables? I have changed my retention period of database as 3. Now, what will be the retention period of my schema? Is it 3 days? Sorry, someone said 3 days.
For schema it's 2, for table it's 3.
Okay. Anyone?
I believe like when we do change the retention, it applies if at the database level, it applies to everyone, like
Okay.
in the below hierarchy.
Okay.
So I think for schema and table, it should be 3 only.
Okay. Okay.
No, I think table is 7 days because it's independent.
Okay. Any other person would like to answer? Srinivas? Let me explain. So as I said, whenever you are defining any particular retention period for the first time on the database, you are having retention period for example, you have defined as a 5 days. Now, when you have not defined anything explicitly on the lower object, so what it will do, it will follow your higher objects and give that particular retention period has 5 days. 5 days. Okay. Now, what happens is now there might be a situation where if this particular schema is of more business critical. You want to have retention period more than 5 days, that is 10 days. Now, if you go and explicitly change it to 10 days, now this is not dependent on your parent. Okay. Now, since you explicitly changed that, whatever value you have given here, it will only take that. Okay. Now, since this particular table again depend on the main object, it will be still 5 days. Okay. Now you have not changed explicitly your table. The first time when it was defined, it was the 5 days only. But again, you went and saw, okay, said, no, I'm changing this to 15 days. Okay. Now, once you do any changes explicitly to the objects, that changes will be considered irrespective of your parent object changes. Now, next day you come and change 3 days to 5 days to 3 days. It is not going to take these 3 days because you have explicitly changed already your retention period. Got it?
Yes.
Okay, and if like say Sagar, like if the retention,
Sagar, let me clear myself. So first time when you do the retention period, it is applicable to all.
Yep.
Second time, if you do independently for schema 10 days, that is schema will be 10 days retention period. That retention period for database is 3 days. That's it. So, but
No.
for example, table, if you wanted to change the table to 15 days, so it's a independent. So it will be retention period for the table is 15 days. It's not 5 days, not 3 days, right?
Yeah, explicitly if you change, I'm saying
Yeah.
you're going and
That's
changing
what,
explicitly. Yeah.
That's what.
Once you do explicitly, if you go and do one day, it will be one day.
Yeah,
so it won't follow your parent.
Yes. Okay. Thanks.
and Sagar, like in the first place when the retention was 5, and I did not did any changes explicitly on schema or in table, and
Yeah,
then
it will
when I
follow
did,
your parent object.
okay, but when in the second time when I did the retention for 3, whether it will go for schema,
Yeah. Now you have not changed to your child, right? Now I showed that yesterday also. Okay. Now, since this is already there, let me create one more database. I showed that yesterday also. You can go and check that demo. But when we see only now you have applied, say for example, you have 5 days. Okay. Now you have not changed anything to your lower. Now explicitly you have not changed anything here. Now next day you come and change 3 days here, database. I will go and take 3 days for all. Because it is still following your parent. Now
yes,
explicitly you are going and changing your lower object, then it won't follow your parent.
okay,
Okay?
yes,
All good?
yes.
Okay. Right. Now this is what we saw in our studies class. Now next thing we'll be going and understanding. Now since we
Hello.
have an idea about retention period. Now,
Yeah, just one more question here. So
Mm.
if we change it for any, like only for table, we didn't change for schema, okay? So it will the retention period like apply for a schema also, right?
No. See, your database comes first, then your schema comes, then your table comes, right?
Yes.
Now you're going and changing to your table. It won't depend on your higher. Now if you change schema also, it won't depend on this. It won't change.
Right.
It follows your database.
Yeah, right. That one only. Like if we change for table, it won't depend on like database. But
No.
we didn't change anything on schema, okay? So it will depend on database only, right? At the time.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
main thing is database. Yep.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Let me share my PPT. Okay. Now, in your data, now you have seen our retention period, how to do our retention period. Now let's try to understand how our time travel works. Okay. Now I have defined my retention for say 10 days. Now, for example, we have done a lot of insert, delete, updates, and all. We found that there are unnecessary records I have deleted, and I want to see what was my original data before my current date. Okay. So in our particularly in our Snowflake, we have this, or first is what our database comes into the picture. Then our schema comes, then our tables comes. Okay. Now inside again, what to insert any data, what we are doing, insert into, we are doing copy into is again something where you are doing bulk load into a table. We'll see in that picture, but you are loading some data into your table. Now what you are updating, you are merging, you are deleting, you are doing all this data activity. Okay. Now what is this clone and all? We'll see that later. But now we are doing this. Now what happens is there's something called has. Now you want to see, so you want to process the query or data where I need to see whatever the changes are happening on top of this particular table, can we bring that data back? Okay. Now, or to see that data, whatever the changes are. So to that, there is something called a select query we'll be doing, which is select from our table, whichever on top of table we have defined our retention period of time travel. Then what we'll do, we'll use something at or before. Now, what is this at or before? Let me show you. Okay. Now, if something, we have a time, you know that time. Okay. Example. Now, we know that our class starts at what, 6:30 a.m., right? Okay. Our class start at 6:30 a.m., but there might be some situation where I know that at 6:30 only I need to start my class. So I'll say at 6:30 I'm going to start. Okay. But you might join the class at what, 6:35 or anything, or before that. Now since that, so what I say, some people might say, okay, I need some time to join. So sometimes we may join early. Can you please start your class? I say, okay, I don't know exactly when I'm going to start. I'll say before 6:30, anytime I can join. Now I don't know at what particular time I'm going to start the class. Okay. At that time, you don't know exact precision at what time you're saying. I might start for 6:24. I might start at 6:27 at any time, but I know that at 6:30, my class is going to start. The same way, at 6:30, you know that there before at 6:30, you know that there might be some changes I have done, but I don't know at what time. It might have done at 6:29. It might have done at 6:28. I don't know that changes have happened inside my table. Then I use something called at. I'll use something called as before, because I know that I don't know exact time of precision, exact time at which the particular changes have done. But I know, but I say exactly at 6:30, I'm going to start. Exactly at 6:30, I'm saying. I know that exact time or precision time where these particular changes are done. So I use something called as at. Any difference in between at and before? Any difference between any confusion between at and before? No confusion? No confusion. Okay. Then I have something called as before and okay. Now before is nothing but I need to retrieve data before the certain timestamp. Okay, or there is something called as offset or nothing but the statement execution. Now what is this? We'll see. But you want to we don't know exact time and we want to retrieve that data before, but where we have the exact specific time on at that time we need to retrieve our data, then we use something called as at. Okay. Now you know that 6:25 this particular you have inserted. Okay. Now I'm going and saying bring my data at 6:25. Now at 6:24 you have done update. At 6:25 you are done insert. Now I say go and bring at this particular time whatever my data is there. I'll write a self query and I say at 6:25 you retrieve the data. What data I will be able to see? Update or insert? which data I'll be able to see? Are you guys understanding what I'm asking? Do you understand my question?
Please again come with your question.
Okay. Now I have done some changes. Okay. At 6:24, I have updated my table. Okay. At 6:25, I have inserted a record in the table. Now I want to see now my time is 6:30. Okay. Now I want to see the changes in the backend. My retention period is 1 day, as I said. Okay. Since I have a retention period of 1 day, I'm going and writing a query. I want to see the data at 6:25. What data I'm going to see? Will I see the updated one or inserted one?
Only inserted one.
Only inserted one.
Yeah.
No, you
Okay.
will see the updated one
Only
because you
updated.
are updating at 6:20. 6:20. Yeah. You will see the insert. You are doing
Okay.
update on 6:24. Are inserting at 6:25. So you will see the insert one.
Okay.
So,
So
I guess
when
so
I'm
both.
using at, I'm saying I'm using at. I'm not using before. Okay.
then we will see the inserted one, like update, and after that insert. So we'll see the latest data at 6:25 one.
Okay. You mean to say both the changes?
Yes, both the changes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean the
Yeah.
specific time.
Yeah. I'm specifying at 6:25.
Yes, the specific one.
If you specify at, you will see the insert. If you specify before, you will see both.
But at 6:25, like we are like at 6:24, the data was updated, and 6:25 it got inserted. So we have the latest data at 6:25. So it will be both you and I, as per
Yeah.
my understanding.
Okay. Okay. I agree with you. At 6:25, we have both the data that is insert and update and insert. We'll be able to see both. But if I say before 6:25, now what I will be able to see?
It should be update only.
Okay. Anyone don't agree with that? Anyone don't agree with that? Okay. So you're see, I don't know. I'm not saying at 6:25 is nothing, but you're saying before this. Now it is nothing but lesser than. And you say at it is nothing but equal to. Now at a specific time you want to see all the changes, then you use at. Now I don't know before this whatever the changes are there, I want to see that, then you go and use before. Okay. Now instead of doing before 6:25, if I have done before 6:26, now what changes I would have seen?
Both you
You
and
can
I.
see
You
both.
will see both, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Insert and update.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I wanted to convey. Okay, I'm trying to make you understand difference between before and at. Okay, fine. Let me remove this all things. Okay. Now the usage is again whenever you want to have a data just before or any changes. Before that particular changes, if you want to have the data, then you use something called as before. Now at that specific time, you at the precise time, if you want to have the data, then we use at. It's a more precise, it is less precise since you are doing something called as a less than. Okay. Now these again common uses are like you need to roll back accidental update or anything. If you want to do that also you can do at precise point of time you want to do analysis, or you want to produce some exact data at that particular time, you'll do. And even you can roll back and all you can do here also, but just main difference is like at that precise time if you want to do any analysis we will go at. Okay. Now these all are theory. Now we are not much interested on that. We'll see example how to do time. Okay. Now to do time travel, you can use something called as timestamp. You can use something called as offset. You can do something called as query ID. Now, what is this timestamp? Is nothing but it's nothing but whatever you are defining your time, it will be in the form of YYY, MM, DD, and hours, minutes, and second. Now you're defining at that particular time and you're saying before this particular time to bring me all the changes or historical changes. Since from the day of your retention period, it will give whatever the retention period you applied, it will give all the historical changes on top of that. Now, if you want to have some, if you use instead of before, you can use at. And if you use at, it will give a precise, or at that particular time, it is going to give you that result. Okay. Now, there is something called as offset. Now, I don't know at what time I need to find. Okay, here I don't know exact time that changes have happened, but I know that there is a duration. Okay, there is a duration between 2 to 5 minutes. Okay, under this duration, my all changes have happened. Now at that time, we use something called as offset. Now this offset is nothing but I'm having my 60 seconds and I want to see before 2 minutes what all my changes have done. Then I'll go something called as offset, where I say before offset minus 60, since I'm going back, and into 5 is nothing but 5 minutes. Here I'm seeing for 5 minutes. Okay, and I want to see at exact before 5 minutes whatever my changes are there. Then I'll go and choose something called as at. Any confusion between timestamp and offset? Any confusion between timestamp and object? No confusion?
Can we go one more time with offset?
Now,
Is it like if we want to check between certain time, we go for
yeah,
offset?
let me explain. Okay. Now you have done your changes 625, 625.30 seconds, 625 at 45 seconds, are done at 626. And you are seeing say at 6:30 you are going to see. Okay. Now since you are doing it seconds, right? You don't know exactly what second, what timestamp. Because for timestamp you want to do what? You need to send the seconds also. Okay. You don't know exactly what time. For now, what you might see, okay, you know that only 5 minutes you have done, but there might be a situation where before 2 hours, you might have given, before three hours you might have done. So what I will do, I have something called as offset. Now simply I'll write offset minus, now at 6:30 I'll say minus 60 into 5. Now whatever the changes that has done with respect to this offset of say 5 minutes, from 6:30 my offset minus 5 minutes is what? 625. Now I'm defining some bracket here. Under this bracket, I'm going to get all that historical changes. Now you got?
Yeah, got it, sure. Thank you.
Sagar, one thing.
Hmm.
Actually, we are using in SQL offset, right? In limited offset. So that is the same principle we are using.
No. That is different. That you are using to retrieve data from the main table. Okay.
Yeah,
Now you are saying limit.
I'm asking. Yeah, there also have limit 10 and offset 10. So it will retrieve the 10 records from the. I mean, it will remove the first 10 records and then it will give the next 10 records. That's the same principle we are using right here. Here also after to the time,
No. That's
whatever
what
we
I'm
are given.
saying. That is done on top of your main table. That table is reside. Okay, you are not going back. You're not going back and seeing the historical changes. Now you have made changes. Okay, first you have a table. Now you updated, you inserted, you deleted. Okay, you updated, you inserted, and you deleted. Okay, now data, that permanent data is there. Now you're going limit 5, it will give 5 first record. And then if you say offset, next 10 record it is going to give. It's not going back at that particular data, whatever is there, that data is being given in SQL. Here, I'm saying my historical changes I'm saying. Now here in MySQL or any other database, you can't see updated, before updated, that record, inserted, deleted, whatever the changes are, or records are there, that I can't see, right? Then you can't go and apply offset there. Here, for historical changes, we are putting this offset. Don't get confused with that offset and this offset. Okay?
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Got it?
Yes. And I have one doubt, sir. We are applying the retention period on the database and schema and table level, right? This is what we are following. So whenever you are applying the retention period on the schema, it will apply on the tables also.
No, that's what I said, right? It always follow your database first.
Yeah, first database. Next,
Yeah.
if you apply the retention period on schema,
You change your schema, it is gone. It is explicitly changing only for schema. It
only
won't
for
follow your table.
okay.
It is followed by database. Now you are explicitly changing any schema, then it will go.
Yeah.
Okay. Fine.
So one doubt, just a confusion. Like when we are using at time, like if we are using exact time, so that time only it will take, or that time and before time also it will take.
Way for which you are asking offset or
For
timestamp.
yeah, for time travel that at using we are, if you use at and before now, so just if you are using at exact time, like just suppose we are using 6:25 for at, so it only takes 6:25 minutes time only, or like it will take 6:24 also along with that.
See, you have done all these changes. Okay, 6:25, 6:27, and you're saying now this is your what your time travel is defined from previous 6, let's say 6 a.m. This is 15th March, 15th April. Now you're doing checking over. Okay, or let's not say 6 a.m. You have say retention period of say something 2 days. Okay, let's take 2 days. Okay, now you have now from April 15th of 6 a.m. to 6:26, you have done a lot of changes. Okay, you have done insert, update, delete, everything you have done. Now you come and say at 6:30, I want to go and see, I don't want to see all these changes, only from 6:25 before whatever I'm going to want to see the changes. If you put at, it will not consider at 6:25. If you have done any changes, it will consider that. If you put before at 6:25, you have not done. If you have done any changes also, it won't consider. It is similar to that of less than. If it is equal to, it will take, including this, it will take all the changes. Now you got?
Yes, I got it. Now got it. Thank you.
Okay. Now, next is something called as a query ID. Now, inside your Snowflake, any queries you run, okay, you just write a select query, you write an update query, you write a delete query, any simple query, okay, for each and every query, irrespective of their success, wrong query, if you have written a wrong syntax also, if that syntax is not correct also, each and every query is, there is something called as a query ID is generated. For each and every query, there will be a particularly query ID generated. And using this particular query IDs, we can do time travel. At that time, we use something called as a statement. Now, these are how your IDs are generated. And you will go from say something from this particular statement. Now you have something insert. One query ID is generated, ID 1. You have update, one ID is generated, ID 2. You have delete, one ID is generated, ID 3. You have done select, in there is something called as ID 4 is generated. Now you are going and saying before this ID 4, whatever the changes are there, then it will you will go, and whatever the changes, all these changes was there, it will go. You say add this particular ID 4, it will consider this particular ID also. Since it is select statement, you won't see any changes. But if you go and say at this particular table and you say add, it will consider this. Or if you say before this particular ID 3, it won't consider your delete, only in second update. Now, any doubts with IDs? Any doubts with ID? No doubts?
So particularly we have to retrieve the ID to check the
Yeah,
statement.
we need IDs. That how to get that ID, I'll show you in the demo now. But with respect to concepts, any doubts?
No.
No doubts?
So instead of at and before, we can directly use this ID and get the required
Yeah,
things, right?
but no, you need to use before add. That is mandatory. Okay. But after that, either you can go with timestamp, offset, or set.
You said with ID we can get the
Yeah.
the statement which we can. So
Yeah.
then
Here,
why
can
do
you
we
see your
need to use
syntax?
before?
Syntax here.
Okay, yeah, before and after. Okay.
So,
So
Sagar,
do we have I mean duplicate IDs as well?
No, each and every query you give, the unique ID will be.
Oh,
Sagar, I have a question regarding this one. So say for at, so say I have done a changes at 625, like at 624 I have done a changes, 625 I have done the changes, and I have used at 626. I will get the changes till 625, correct?
Oh, sorry,
For
I don't get that part. Can you come again?
okay, say I have done an update at 624
Mm,
and insert at 625, and
mm,
I have fired a query, like
mm,
I have written a query and used at
mm,
626.
mm.
I will get all the data till 625 because my last modification was 625. I am correct?
Yeah, yep.
Okay,
Whatever timestamp you give, before at is nothing but it will consider until that. Before is nothing
okay,
but before the timestamp it will consider.
okay. But when we are going for query ID, in
Mm,
that case, as it is generated for particular insert update like
mm,
at. So
mm.
in this case, whether I will get the data, like if I do uh, what is the difference between example with timestamp and example with query ID
Okay,
for at?
you give me some time. I'll show you that. Okay,
Okay,
I'll show you demo. Then you will have some more understanding.
okay, okay. Thank you.
Uh, just give me a minute. Now, since this is all simple topics, we no need to spend more time. So I'll be doing what I have created already a script. Okay, let me take that script so that we can have some idea. Is it okay? Is it fine?
Yes.
Okay. Now let's create something called as from start, and we'll see retention period also, and then we'll try to see our time travel. Okay, I'm creating something called, I don't have anything called as my demo DB. I don't have anything in my database. I'll say going and creating something called as my demo DB. Okay, and I'm going to say create something called as my demo schema also. I've created another schema, that is my demo schema. Okay, I see there is a particular schema has been created. Okay, now I'm going to insert something called as sales table. Under the sales table, I have order ID, customer name, order date, and amount. Okay, and I'm inserting this particular. I'm created this particular table. Okay, now yesterday someone asked, will it use the compute? Okay, I was not able to answer that because I missed something. So whenever you're doing only metadata related activities, your cloud layer will take care of it and you don't need any compute. But if you're going to insert any data, start doing working with data, then your compute will come into the picture. Okay, we'll see that more whenever we are going to see query, how a cache, how it works. At that time, we'll deep dive into more into that. Now, let's try to see what is a retention period. Okay, now for all, it will be default by 1 day. I'm going and saying for my demo DBE, I'm putting something as 10 days. Okay. Now, if I go and see in my parameters, it should have been changed to what? 10 days. Okay. Now, I'm going and changing my demo DB. Say something I'm going to say. Okay. I think I might have explained something wrong. Let me see that. I change only my schema as 5 days. Okay. I change my schema as 5 days and let me see, will it take 5 days? Okay. It has taken schema. Okay. That is my mistake. Okay, guys, sorry. Let me explain one more time. Particular, where we went. Now, we had something called as database. Now we had something called as database. We have schema. Then we have table. Okay, it is following this hierarchy. Okay, I thought maybe it might have taken as a parent as a main. Since it's a main parent, you should have followed this. But now, if you're going and changing only schema to 5 days, your table is also following your schema. Okay, this was my mistake. I'm sorry for that. But yeah, this is how it is working. Okay, any doubts in this? Any doubts in this? Any doubts in this? No doubts? Fine. Let me. Okay, now we saw this particular thing, and then we are altering our table data and something called as 3 days. Now, since we are altering our table data through 3 days, and then once you go, now what was our initial? That was database has 10 days. Now it should have been showing 10 days for this. Okay, it is showing 10 days, and then it is for schema. We have changed something called as 5 days. We should have shown 5 days for that, and then when we are going and see checking for our tables, then it is going to see 3 days. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to alter my table database to 2 days now. I'm changing my database to 2 days, and when I go and see retention period for table, it is still 2 days. But when I go with my schema, you should not inherit your database since you are explicitly changed your schema. Now, since I already also explicitly changed my table, now you should not inherit your schema. Okay, whatever the changes you have done, it is still there in that. Okay, now this is all about your retention period you are seeing. Now, I can go and alter, and I'm going and setting my retention period. Now, I don't want to do that. I want to create another, I want to set this retention period at the time of my creation of my database only. Then I can go and say something like create database, new, I'm creating another database, and I'm saying I'm going to set this retention period as 7 days. Okay, I have set my retention period as 7 days. I can do this, and if I go and check my new database object, now you should have, instead of 1 day, your value is 7 days. You can set your retention period while creating of your object also by saying just data retention period in days equal to whatever the days you want to do. You can set that also. Okay, now I'm creating another schema and I'm setting 4 days. Okay, once you set that, and I'm again going to say for even creating of tables, I want to set my retention period, then I can go and set this particular retention period at the time of my creation only. This is how you can set your retention period. We have seen all these things. Now, these are some extra. If you want, you can go and check. Now, let's come to something called as time travel. Okay, now for time travel, let's see, whatever you do, you have to pass, as I said, we have to pass our something called as timestamp. Okay, this particular timestamp should be a valid timestamp. So let me first check what is my current date format. Okay, my current date format is this. Okay, now there are different time format inside your Snowflake. We'll see that in a further classes. This is my current time format. And if I pass this, it is not going to take. Okay. Now either you can go and say set my timestamp output format to this particular our YYY, our MMDD. We can go and we can set that particular time format. And then once you go and see, that format should be coming. Okay. Now you have set your current time format. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is, there is something called as in our Snowflake, there is something called as a sample. Okay. I think sample, Snowflake sample. Let me see. Okay. There is something called a sample. Under that, there are different types of table. Now, under that, let's consider a very small table. Let's see TF1. Okay. Now we have this particular region table. Okay. We have something called as a region table. Let me show this particular region table first. I have this particular table which I have only three particular columns. Okay, under that we have something called as keys, names, and comments. Okay, now let's now we can't directly go and work on this particular sample database. It's only view only data. Okay, we can't directly since work on that. What I'll be doing under my, let's go and see what was my first DB, right? My demo DB. Under this my demo DB, I'm going to create what? I'm going to create another table called as a region 2, where I'm saying what? This is you know this, right? How to create a table? I explained in SQL also. And someone, if you don't know, we can just use something called as TTS, as where I'm saying create table, my table name as something called as whatever the select statement you want to run. You run that, it is going to bring that data and structure also, and you are going to create that. I'm going to create this particular table. Okay, I've created this table and I go and check that particular table. Now I have this particular data. Now, what is now let's see what is my current timestamp. Okay, if you want to see current timestamp, this is my current timestamp. Okay, now I have created my table, I have inserted my table, and this is my what current timestamp. Okay, now what I'm going to do, let's see, there is something called as a show table. Like, okay, if you want to check the information about this table, I'm going and checking that table. It will give the information about that table. It is under this demo DB. It is under this demo schema, and what are the rows, what are this, how much by storage it is having, whatever the who have created this owner, who's the owner of this table, and all the information it is going to see. We'll see explore more on the on top of this table in further classes. But you just see I have taken this particular timestamp and I have waited for at least 1 minute. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to update my table. Okay, now updated my table. Now again, if I go and see, now what we are having, we have updated our table. Okay, now what I'm going to do, again, this is my first timestamp, right? Which was there. That was, let's consider this as first time stamp. Okay, now since I have updated, now let me again take something called as current time. Okay, now this is my second time stamp. Okay, now how to get this variable will come that. But what we are going to do now, I want to see whatever my changes have been done. Now this is my current timestamp. I know there are some changes have been done. I'll take this particular timestamp and we have something called as a information query history. Now what is this query history? Now I have shown you whenever you go in the monitor tab and you click on your something called as query history. Now you can see whatever the query you have run, for each and every query there is something called as ID generated. And what is this success? Is it success? And if is there any failure, for that also there is something called a query generated. And what is that particular query text? We will be able to see that. Now these all information are under the functions. There are something called as a table function. Under that, all this information is being kept. Now we need to read that particular. Okay. Now I need to read that. I don't want to go from UI and check again and again. I need to read that in the form of table. Now this is something called function where it is giving output in the form of table. Now what I'm saying, whatever the directly we can't go and say select star from function. I'm saying if it is giving in form of output or in the form of table, I'll say just table and you give me information. Now once you run this, it is going to give all the information. Okay, now all the information what you have done. Now you have done insert, you have done update, whatever the query type, it is going to give each and every information from your current Snowflake account. Now in that, I want something where my query type, either it might be update delete or inserted, and when this is my current timestamp where I have put my, this is the where, before that whatever the changes you have done, you give me that. Okay, once you select this, you are going to get something information about. Okay, I pass. Okay, I don't pass my, this is my current time, so I have to pass this. Okay, I'm going to pass this, and once I run this, all the information about whatever the changes. Now, since I have done only update, for that particular update, I'm going to get whatever my query IDs. This is how you are going to find the query IDs. This is how you are going to get your information. Okay, now these are all things we have seen. But what is my main concern is I want to do time travel and I want to check. So for that, let's go first with a statement, that is query ID. Now you have done this particular thing and you have run this particular thing and you got something called, you have generated something, a ID for this. I'm going to take this ID and I'm going to place this. Okay, now if I place, now this is my table. Okay, this is my current table. Okay, now what changes I've done? I changed from Asia to Asia 2. Okay, now this have done my current table. Now for this particular changes, in this particular query history, I have found that for that particular update, this is a query ID has found. I have took that query ID and I am keeping that in this statement. Now what data it will show? It will show Asia 2 or Asia according to before and at whatever we have discussed. Okay, anyone? Are you following, guys? Is it? I'm going in a fast pace. If you want me to slow down, please let me know.
Yeah, little bit, please.
Okay. Now
Okay,
I
show
said,
the table one more time.
okay, this is my current table. Okay. Now what I have done earlier, it was Asia. I have converted it into Asia 2. Okay. Now I have done some operations, that is update, delete, or insert any operation I have done. Now I need to find out what all the history of that particular operation I have done. So I have something called as a information schema dot query history. This is a function defined by Snowflake. Okay. Any query you write or do, a particular ID is generated and that history is being tracked. Okay. I cannot read this particularly directly as a function. I'm reading it as a table. In this particular function give the result set in the form of table. Okay. Now from this particular table, I went and I found if there are any update, delete, insert, these things are happening to give that information. Now what I have done, I have done one update. For that, I have something ID generated and what all the information regarding that it's been giving. But I'm not worried about that. My main concern is I need what ID it has generated. I had copied this particular ID. Okay. Now I'm going, this is where I'm doing my time travel. To do time travel, this is your statement, like select star from whatever the table you need. And then I said before or at, and then we are using either statement, either offset, or either timestamp. Okay, I'm going and saying at statement of this, and whatever the query ID I have got, I have replaced here. Okay, now since I'm using before, what should be my what data it will show? Will it show, since I've done update from Asia to Asia 2, will show Asia or it will show Asia 2? I'm asking, since I'm using before.
It shows Asia.
Okay.
Before that statement, it shows.
Once I run this, whatever the changes you have done before that ID, it is going to show you. Okay. This is how you use with respect to your ID. Okay. Now I want to know at that specific ID, I want to know what are the changes are there. Then I'm going to
So
run this particular.
show the
Okay.
updated ones with the ID.
Yeah, at that particular ID, whatever the changes has been there, that it is going to show, since you're using at.
Sagar, what is the advantage of using query ID if you have the timestamp and the other option also?
Okay, see, now you might have, there are the, say, let's say, let me go this here, let me take, okay, let's say you have a team of two people, okay, like let's say three developers are working, okay, now one
Okay.
developer, what he did on third day, he has deleted some record, okay,
Okay.
you are coming on the fourth day, you're seeing this particular developer are deleted, but he's absent for today, he's not there in your office, but you don't know at
Okay.
what day he has deleted this. You don't know at
Okay.
what time he has deleted. At what can you do? Go and say offset of -60, and you sit and do. Okay, I'll do for 5 minutes. I'll check for 10 minutes. I'll check for 30 minutes, and then okay, I'll keep on adding something like
Okay.
timestamp. Can we do that?
No, no, it will be hard actually.
That's the reason we'll go just history. We'll check our query history. In that particular, we'll find the IDs, and then for that particular ID, we are going to see that.
Okay.
Ah, okay. Any doubt in IDs now? How to use ID? Any doubt how to use IDs? Are we clear with IDs? Okay, no response means I think we are clear. Okay,
Yeah,
now,
bro, we get those ID in the history, right?
yeah, everything, all those information will be given by query history. Now, how you can just query like this also. I want only for update. You just say wherever the, like, right, how to query all the using self query, you just do that. You can query that also. For particular, any statement you do, only that particular ID is going to get. I only need ID. So I have taken query ID from this particular function. Okay.
Got it.
Okay. Now I don't want to use something called as a statement or ID. I'll use something called as offset. Okay. Now I don't know at what timestamp we have created. That was six. This is US timestamp. This is not our IST timestamp, so it is showing UTC. Okay. Let me use something like this and see offset. That is coming. Data is coming. The region is region 2 it is. Okay. It is coming to. Okay. Now I'm using something called as before now. Okay. I'm using before this certain offset. Now what is this certain offset is doing? This is nothing but seconds. Seconds into 7 is nothing but 7 minutes. From my current minute, that is 7:37, -7 till 7:30, it is going to check whatever the data is there, that is going to show you. Okay. Now before that, I don't want to that. I'll say, let me put as 10 minutes. I don't know. Before 10 minutes, I explained you that. Okay, not even 10 minutes. It is more than that. Need put 15 minutes. See, now before 15 minutes, our table was not created. Now, what it is showing, the data cannot be available for this particular table since it is beyond your time travel or before your object is created. That's the reason you can't travel back if your data is only not there. Okay. Now I need to. Now this is very difficult for me, right? I don't know at what time I need to go and I need to check. Now again I need to go and check. Okay, is it before 14 minutes? This particular no. 13 minutes no. Stranger. 12 minutes. Okay. Now I'm not able to find exactly this information. Okay. I want to track. I want to track my first changes, but I don't know at what exact time. This is the difficulty of using offset. Okay. Now if I say at also at that particular time, I don't know. It might have been changed. Now it is giving this. It might have changed at 12, say like 12 minutes 30 seconds, 12 minutes 40 seconds. So we can't exactly, if you don't know that offset time, it is very difficult to use at. Got it? How your offset works? how your offset work? Any doubts? Any doubts in this?
No.
Okay. Now we don't know exact time when we create it. That's the reason it is very difficult to find it out. Okay. Now that's the reason. But you want to have a generic idea, whatever you have done n number of changes. Okay. Now let me do one thing. Instead of, let me select this. I'll say America 2. Okay, I have changed my America 2. Using this, I can explain you something called as an offset. Okay, now if I'm going and checking at since at is very difficult to find at that particular seconds, how much seconds we have done, so I'll be not able to show you a demo for at using offset. Now let's see using before. Okay, I have done 2 changes now. Now if I go and see in my query history tab, now since I've done 2 changes, you'll be able to see again time. Let me do this as current time. Okay, now I've done 2 updates. Now we can are able to see 2 histories. Okay, now I want to go and see offset. Now I know that before 3 minutes there was no America 2. Now I can just go and see before at any 5 minutes before. Let me go and see whatever my changes are there. Now you can see there is no America 2 because we have time travel and we got the historical changes. Okay, now since it's very difficult to find out at seconds, so the demo for this will be not difficult, but just have an understanding. If you know that exact time or since it's always keep on changing. Now again, now if I even give something called as 12, any particular number also I give, as soon as you run 2-3 seconds will be gone. So it's very difficult to find at for offset using offset. Okay, using before we can use and we can find anything changes that happen. Now I don't want to do all these things. Okay, I have done something called as my, I know the timestamp when all the changes have been done. Now I'll use something called as timestamp. Okay, I'll use timestamp and I say at this time where my table was created. Okay, I'll just go and I see at this particular time what was my data. Oh, it's not created at this time. No? When was my table created? I think I need to set the current time to UTC. Why it is not taking? Let me increase it to something called as, let's say 19. Okay, region 2 is there, correct? It is there, then why it is not taking? Okay, fine. Instead of that, what we'll do is, let's say, let me select this particular timestamp. Okay, let me see, take this particular time instead of taking that. Okay, I'm doing something called as, since I'm not able to find exact time when it was created. Now what I'll do, whatever my current time is there, minus that interval of 10 minutes you do, and you bring the using timestamp, you bring my something called as a time travel. I'm doing this. And once I do this, okay, region 2 is not there. Was my region 2. Now once I run this, now since before 10 minutes we did not have what America 2. So it is bringing your America 2. Okay. Now you can use this and you can do this also. Now if I do just 5 minutes, okay, before 5 minutes of my interval, I'm going to bring, okay, still it is not there. Let me see 3 minutes. Now we can see even before 3 minutes we have updated, since it is able to bring your 3 minutes also. Now again, it is very difficult to find your timestamp. Okay, at it is giving. Now if at it is giving, and if you give before also, it will give. Okay, but you don't know exactly at what time you have done changes. So at that time, it will be very difficult to find use of at condition. Okay, now any doubts in this? Any doubts in using timestamp?
Sagar, in monitoring whether we will get the timestamp, like at what time the changes will have
No,
been.
that's the thing, right? In your history, it won't be mentioned, I guess. Only IDs they will be giving.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the issue. Okay, there is something called a start time. Can we use this? Or else end time will use. Let's see. Can we use this? Okay, now you are able to see. Now at that particular time, what only Asia 2 was there, right? This was our first update statement. I took the first update statement and they have
from
given,
Asia to yeah.
yeah, I've taken this particular time. It has started at this time and it has ended this time. At this time, we have not created a America 2. So it was able to show me at that particular time your America also. America. It's not showing America 2. Okay. Now let me do this as 50. It's not taking up. Or else let me do this 8. Mhm. That's the problem with this particular. I need to give exact time for at the what at that time is being created. I need to give that. It's not taking at that particular time. That's the issue with this timestamp. So that's the reason whenever you'll be going for time travel, mostly we'll be using query ID. It's very easy to use query ID. Okay. Any doubts? Please let me know. Was this? Let me see. I had created at 5. It's still taking that. Strange. This is hours, minutes, seconds. Okay. Okay. Any doubts? You let me know. I'll let you know this. Any doubts? See, I'm not able to find the exact time when it is created. Or else let me see in this history. Take query history. Let me remove this. I say this particular history. And is there? Any doubts? Let me know, guys. I'll show you until that. Select is there? I should query here. Okay, all there. Else, let me take only in. It's not showing insert. We did insert, right? It is not showing inserted data. Yeah, tell me guys, any doubts? Only update it is showing. We inserted our data.
Can you move
Okay.
that all the way to the right side? That query history ID table. I mean the row, the record.
This one.
Yes. Okay.
It's only showing update. We have shown insert, but it is not showing. Let me go into my query history.
We did not do any insertion over here. I think so. We just
sorry.
updated.
My bad. Okay, that was my mistake. Okay. I thought I inserted that data. Thank you for reminding me. Okay.
And I have
Yep.
a suggestion. For every topic that we go through, can you give us a good scenario so that can be
Yeah.
helpful in
Now,
the
next, I'll take the next scenario. But because in your interview they won't going to ask how you do time travel, what is that before. These all things they
I
won't
mean,
ask because
uh,
everyone is knowing this.
even
Now,
though
if
even
you know
though
the
they don't,
concept,
yeah,
yeah. Now I'll take one
yeah, to
scenario and I'll
understand
explain.
our concept purpose only, I'm asking for the scenario kind of thing.
Yeah. That's the thing, right? I'm explaining you scenario also. Okay. Now I'll explain you. But for now, are you good with the time travel? How it works?
Yes.
Okay.
Like
Now let
after
me take.
the one you explained about the employee if he is absent kind of thing, we check it with the query ID kind of thing, right? So
Yeah, that thing will
yeah,
surely we'll discuss. No worries. Okay.
that is
Now,
a good example. So that's why I'm asking for the
yeah,
scenarios
that
for.
those things will be explaining. Don't worry. Whenever it comes, any scenario it comes, we'll explain. I'll explain that. Don't worry. Okay. Let me go here. One more. I'm going to take one last thing. Okay. This is an interview question you'll get. Okay. Now they won't ask what is time travel. They won't ask what is fail safe because everyone is knowing that. They'll be asking you a scenario based question. Okay. I'm creating one customer table called as with a retention period of 1 day. Okay. I've created this with the retention period of use database. Huh? Let me use my demo DB and MySQL. Okay. I've created this particular database. Okay. Now I've inserted this particular records. Okay. Now I'm reading this from this particular records. Okay. Now what I'm doing, I am adding one particular column. I've changed my structure. Now again what? I have inserted my new record and this is my new structure now. Okay, what I did, I inserted first there was only 3 columns with the data and there was no email column. Now what I did, I inserted another record, I added one more column and I have it. Now if I do time travel, what will happen? If I do time offset of 2 minutes, I know 2 minutes before 2 minutes, so there were only 3 columns. If I do time travel, what all records I will be able to see? Will I see only 3 columns or will I see 4 columns?
So it
So
will
if you
depend
do
on the
before, you're
like.
gonna see 3 columns.
Sorry?
3 columns.
It shows only 3 columns.
Okay. Okay. Anyone?
So it will depend like in time travel what we are using before or at
No,
certain time.
I am not. You use any time travel. I don't care about you are using offset, you are using timestamp, you're using statement, whatever you are using. If you go back, what will be your structure of your table? I'm asking.
So the latest one will be 4 columns.
Okay. Okay. So earlier I had say 3 minutes before I had three records in 3 columns. Okay. Now you're going time. Now you added fourth column with one extra record. Now you're doing time travel for 3 minutes before. Okay. What will be my structure of my table and what will be the value usually?
3 minutes before it will be 3 columns with 3 rows.
Okay. Anyone? Anyone would like to answer the question? Anyone would want to try the?
So the current one will not be displayed. We will get the previous ones only. I mean the
No, I'm
updated
asking
one.
I'm asking what will be my structure of my table and what will be the records.
3 columns, 4 records. I mean,
Okay,
yeah,
three columns or whatever the
4.
records were.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Any other person? Now I'm doing a time travel. Okay. There was right. Okay. I think before 3 minutes I have created. Okay. Now no, I don't want to clone my table. I don't want to explain you that. I'm using time travel at this particular table before 3 minutes. Okay. Now once I run this, now what are you seeing here? Before 3 minutes. That means before 3 minutes I've created my table. Okay. It's been already 3 minutes. Okay. Let me take something as 4 minutes. This is a problem. This. Let me wait for 2 more minutes. Or else let me take this ID. Better to go with this information schema. There was that my information schema. Not this. Where was my update delete? Let me not do this. Okay. I want all information. Mhm. I created my table here. Okay. Let me take this ID. Instead of this, let me take quickly this statement, and I'm doing this particular. I don't want created, just this. I want my first inserted record, inserted record, inserted record. Where is my inserted record? This was email. This ID I need. I inserted this particular record. Now I'm replacing here. Okay. This was where at this particular ID, what was my structure? At this particular ID, my structure was where only name, column ID, name, city. Oh, this is an insert. This particular insert. Okay. There are only 3 columns. I've taken this particular ID and I'm going and checking here. Okay. I run this, so you'll be able to see select unexpected. I need to comment it out. Now I'm able to see my data. In region, why it is coming region? Taken as a customer. But let me take this particular ID. Putting that particular ID here. And I'm going and checking at that particular time. So, Hare?
Saga, change the table name with the select condition.
Oh, my bad. My bad. Sorry. If I run this, I'm able to see my column also. Okay. Now what happens is you have something called has. I have changed your table. Okay. Now let me take this scenario and explain this quickly. Okay. Now you have your table. Okay. You have 3 columns and you have 3 records. 3 records are there. Okay. Now you have added one more record, one more column you added. Now you have 4 columns. Okay. You have what? 4 records. And you inserted one more record. Okay. One new record. Now, once you insert, you have 4 columns, you have inserted one new record and you inserted only for that particular record. What will be the values for this last 4th column? What you have added? What will be the value for first 3 records? When
Null
you
actually.
null.
Null.
Okay, it will be nulls. Okay, but once you do time travel, now you're doing time travel and you're going to fetch, say, before inserting of whatever things you have done columns, you're going and fetching that. What will happen is your structure is changed now. Okay, your table structure is changed, but at that time, these particular values will be still null. Okay, but since your structure is changed, whatever the structure changes that particular table structure is there, you are going to see that. Now, why it is happening is in backend, there is something called as micro partition. Now, whenever you do any changes, the new micro partition will be created on top of that structure, and your time travel will make a duplication of those things. Okay. Now, if you change your structure, whatever the structure you have changed, based on that, your time travel is done. Okay. Now, earlier you had 3 tables. Now you are converted into 4 table. But when you do time travel, when there was 3 table, but it will show you fourth column also. But those records will be null. Okay. If you delete one column, if you have 2 columns also, if you go back, only those 2 columns will be shown. Got it? Any doubts in this? Any doubts in that?
No, sure.
So Sagar, I mean, what is the output of that query after time travel? It's giving all nulls in the 4th column, or giving the value for the 4th record?
I have this particular insert. Okay. Let me take this insert. I'm going to use here before. Now, since before we don't have any data, so let's use at. Now, what you are seeing? The 4th
Yeah.
column is there, right?
Yes.
Your 4th column is there, but since you have already added 4th record, that won't define, but your structure changes is there, no? That is being defined.
Got
Okay.
it.
Now, what I will do, let me quickly drop the table. I am dropping one column, that is something called as TT. Okay. Now I'm renaming my column to say email to email, contact email. Okay. I'm doing that also. Whatever you're doing, structure changes, it has been changed. Okay. Now I'm doing one update statement I'm doing. Okay. I'm updating it. After saying that, what you are going to see, this is your table. This is your current table now. Now you deleted one column, you have updated this. Now I want to do time travel for say 1 minute before, whatever 1 minute before, I'm going to see that if you go and see the 3rd column which you deleted, that is gone. The structure changes is gone, but whatever the data you have added, that is there. But for this Ravi Kumar, I have updated, but it's not showing because it is recently done and before 60 seconds, that was not there. Got it?
Okay.
Are we good now? Fine, yes. That's it from my side today. If you have any doubts, please let me know. And since for anyone who is new, today is our last demo session. From Monday, it will be a paid classes. If you need any more information, do connect with Mahesh. He'll help you out.
Sagar, can we get the script of these queries?
Yeah, I'll be adding in the portal.
Okay.
so that you can practice. Any doubts? No doubts?
Sir, one last question I have. Yeah, hope you have explained it multiple times, but still I just was a bit confused on it. So on the retention and time travel, right? See, by default it's 1 day, right? If I change the retention for the database explicitly, so it will affect the hierarchy. I mean the schema and the table. If I don't change them,
yeah, if you don't change, it will affect.
okay.
But you one time explicitly, if you change any of the schema or any of the table, it won't follow your hierarchy.
Got it. If I at least change it one time explicitly,
yeah,
it will
one
not
time.
follow. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
one time also explicitly, if you change, it won't affect.
Okay. If I understand correctly,
again, don't think too much about this retention period and all, because
yes.
usually as a developer, you'll be not working on that. But since I need to explain you time travel, I need to bring these all things concept. Because even I, it's very rare like you'll be using time travel. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, because if you have any physical business critical and by mistake you're done, you'll be going and using that. But they in the interview they'll ask, okay, because since there's a feature of Snowflake, they'll bring these all topics up and they'll try to drill you through. So since that, I brought few scenarios and I try to explain.
Got it. Got it.
Yep.
So by
The
default, it
most
will take the
important
hierarchy.
part.
If not,
Yeah. Sorry,
yeah.
you were saying something.
Yeah. By default, it will take the hierarchy. I mean, if I change it to the highest level, if I changed it explicitly for any of these child things, I mean, it will not. I mean, it will not affect whenever.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
That's what I want.
Yep. Sure then.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Sure then, guys. We'll meet Monday. If you still have any doubts, please connect with Mahesh, or if you have still doubts about anyone who is new still for the batch who's attending for demo classes. Okay, fine. We'll meet on Monday then. Have a nice weekend. I'll upload the scripts and I'll upload the document also. Go through that and practice. Okay? Fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Sagar. Yeah.
Yeah? Any doubts?
No, thank you, Sagar.
Okay, sure. Thank you.